33 years ago, fresh-faced, 16 years of age and with hair, I arrived here in Letcombe Bassett to work for the late Captain Tim Forster. And I'm actually up here in the graveyard at his grave, and it says trainer of 3 Grand National. The last of those was last suspect when I was here. When I was here, there were tales about Golden Miller, who was also trained here in the stable, and drummer Downey, who finished 4th in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. It is now the home of Mark and Sarah Bradstock, who, of course, have got the reigning Gold Cup winner, Coneygree. Mark, he looks absolutely magnificent. He really does. You must be delighted.
Oh yeah, I mean, chuffed a bit. We were always hoping that, you know, with a summer holiday, that he would come back a bit stronger. And I really, you know, I think he has.
I mean, every single trainer thinks their horse is better after a summer break, but I genuinely think he's put on weight, hasn't he? He's bigger behind the saddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we see them, you know, every single day, every second of the day. So, you know, for you to come in might be, you know, a bit more noticeable for you than probably, you know, even us. But we do think, you know, I mean, Sarah rides obviously every day and thinks he's in fantastic form.
So how far forward is he? What's his work? Obviously, we saw him cantering on the grass this morning.
Yeah, this is the first time he would have been up what we call the winter grass, which is 7 furlongs, with all that rain yesterday. Yeah, I mean, he takes a lot of work. I mean, we measured him actually. He's 17 hands, although his legs are he's got such ridiculously long legs. But Nico's been in once a week for the last 3 weeks, jumping him in the school. So no, we're in a pretty cool position. Is
he fragile to train, or is he fairly straightforward? Or
I mean, he's fairly straightforward. He just is a bit of a git, you know. I mean, you know, he does, you know, he wouldn't be the quietest. You know, he does know how to be stupid.
Yeah, you said he jumped on a fence or something, didn't he? The other day, and,
playing with his brother across the fence and destroyed the whole fence. So, you know, just recipe for disaster, aren't they?
I'd forgotten actually before I looked through his form. He's only actually run 10 times, 4 times over fences. Incredible.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, he's only got beaten once over hurdles, and that was by, you know, the new one and at Fisher's Cross. I mean, so, you know, the form was always there. You know, even before he started going over fences. And, yeah, I mean, he just got better and better and better.
But the magnitude of what you achieved, given that it's a small stable, when you've had obviously quite a long time to reflect on it, it was an extraordinary day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, you know, both Sarah and we were talking about this last night, actually, you know, you'd still have to pinch yourself to, you know, comprehend exactly what went on, you know, and it's still, in a funny sort of way, quite a blur. Because I'm a terrible box walker, and it is, you know, and even, you know, I mean, sort of getting back at whatever time we got back at about 7:30 or something, you know, to find the whole house full of about 200 mates. I mean, it was just magic.
I remember thinking, those lunatics, why aren't they running him in the novice race? What are they doing? But hey, you proved right. Obviously.
Yeah, but I think Sarah made a very, very good point. She said, you know, if we'd won the RSA by 20 lengths, we'd be kicking ourselves. Why didn't we? And if we got beaten in the RSA, we wouldn't have won the Gold Cup anyway. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. And the rain came.
Now, what is plans this year? I mean, there's only so many races that you can run in, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite tragic, really, in the sense that, you know, I can't believe that Joe Bloggs doesn't want to go and watch the top chasers or even hurdlers of the country running more regularly than they can. So, you know, he'll get an entry for both the race at Haydock and the Hennessy.
I think we were looking, Denman won it off 174, you're 169.
Are we? Anyway, whatever we are. Yeah, so. I mean, he'll be top weight, but, you know.
But from your days at Fort Owens, they always used to run the Gold Cup horses in the Hennessy. It's only become recently that they haven't.
God, yeah. I mean, you know, it is, you know, one of the most prestigious, well, probably the most prestigious handicap of the whole season. And the opportunities are very slim. You know, as I said, you've got an open handicap at Cheltenham, the first meeting. The ground will probably be very quick. You've got the Charlie Hall, never very fond of the ground up there, and the Hennessy. Mm-hmm. And then the race at Haydock.
Yeah, so it doesn't really give you much too
No.
many options. So, it's assuming then the way that he won at Kempton, that the King George very much on the cards as well.
Yeah.
You don't sound that. You sound
No,
a
I'm
little
not.
bit.
I'm not
Okay.
really. And the race, the King George, I'm not totally convinced about.
In what sense? What? Because they'll get him at it because they'll all be.
No, I mean, he actually doesn't mind that. It actually makes him concentrate a bit more. I mean, it's like watching him in the Gold Cup. He's actually travels better with a bit of company. I mean, albeit a bloody quick pace. No, I mean, you know, again, totally depends on what we do before, you know, because he might have, if we go for the Hennessy, he might have a very hard race, and it does only come a month afterwards. So there is the Cotswold Chase at Cheltenham to consider. Who knows?
Would you consider travelling him? Would you consider going over to Ireland? You know,
Yeah, but I
Lexus
think,
or-
there's the Lexus, but that, you know, I mean, again, to run first time out with the travelling as well, you know, I think it's quite an ask.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's scratch your head time.
So theoretically, then, if he didn't, he could almost go have just a couple of runs, go to the Gold Cup.
Yeah, but I know Best Mate used to do that, but I mean, it's not really the way we look at it. I mean, you know, if he's well and the races are there, we'll be running. You know, and there are, as I said, those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, those are the 5 opportunities before the Gold Cup. But obviously, that is the aim.
And this year it'll be slightly different because as going into everything as the underdog, this year you're going to be very much top dog, aren't you? You know,
Yeah, but you say we were the underdog, and we were still second favourite,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
up,
no.
you know, and we weren't a 33-1
No,
shot. You know, and everybody kept on harping onto us about how incredibly quick both the Kempton race and the Denman Chase were. I mean, you know, he's so deceptive of the pace he does go, and it's relentless.
Nico de Boinville gets on superbly well. And how did that association come about?
It actually came about. We were looking for a claimer to ride Carruthers at the big race at Foss Lass, and we spotted him riding something for Nicky, and it just, you know, snowballed from there.
And obviously, been down the road, he can come up and school him, and you know, you're beck and calling us.
He's brilliant,
Yeah.
but I mean, you know, we had a fabulous time with Matty Batchelor, but you know, sadly, he was not getting the rides, and it's very difficult. You know, I think it's important for jockeys to be able to, you know, keep their eye in to get, you know, the stridings and everything like that. But you know, it's just one of those things.
All credit to you. I must admit, there have been a lot of trainers would have kept Richard Johnson on after he won on him so well at Newbury. You know, top jockey, and you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, that was never an issue.
No.
And certainly, if you know, I think the travesty of the whole year was the fact that John wasn't about.
Yeah.
And he certainly would have, you know, been the first one to say, no, we're keeping Nico. So, yeah, and I think it's not just a question of Coneygree, it's all the other work that Nico does when he comes in. And, you know, if he feels that he's going to get, you know, jocked off the moment something decent comes along or whatever, or a top jockey available for a race, I mean, anybody's going to be saying, whoa, you know, I'm not going to really go out of my way to help them out.
And Carruthers, you mentioned him. He's still going. Good old lad.
He's behaving like an absolute 4-year-old. I had the privilege, well, it wasn't really a privilege of riding him the other day, and he completely carted me. But I suppose that's not really of a surprise. But anyway.
It's good though when he won at Newbury. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was
Yeah, I mean,
brilliant,
he is very special. Owes nobody nothing, and he just is. You know, he's been an absolute superstar, and he still is.
And Flintham, of course, they're all related. Presumably, he's going chasing.
Yeah, he went from, I think, 95 to 146 last season. So when he won at Chepstow off 109.
It wasn't actually that clever a thing to do in the end, as it turns out.
Yeah, but then he kept on being put up, God knows how much, for standing in his box. You know, when all the horses behind him. Anyway, yeah, he'll go straight novice chasing. And
Look, I mean, like most of the time, he'd be better over fences, won't he?
Oh, without doubt. Oh, God, yeah. I think he's a sort of, you know, he'd be okay. to say the least.
And how far is he off a run? Or
I mean, likewise, he did his first canter up on the grass this morning. Looks great. Definitely, again, developed. Really looking forward to him. Really looking forward to him.
Do you go straight in with the big guns, or do you softly, or which way do you?
Well, sadly, you know, I mean, one would like to go softly, but I mean, I don't think there's a novice handicap rated 0 to 150. But anyway, we've top weighted that anyway. So yeah, it's going to be, you know, in the deep end. But they'll have to jump, and they will have. He's very tough.
Racing's got so Premier League these days. Has winning a Gold Cup got people knocking on the door? Is it still very difficult?
No, we certainly haven't had knocks on the door. No, it is hard, but you know, we'll keep.
It's surprising, really, isn't it? When you think about it, you know what you've achieved with the horse.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if I was an owner, I would much prefer to go to a smaller yard, not necessarily, you know, I mean, in general, rather than a big yard. You know, I mean, I don't see how people can train 200 horses. I really don't. And I think both go out the window. I don't think the horses get enough attention, and I don't think the owners get enough attention.
And what you've got here, there cannot be a yard in the country with the facilities you've got. We actually visited Captain Forster's grave earlier on, you know, for old time's sake. Actually, the captain, he's still moaning at me. But these gaps,
aren't we all?
These gaps are second to none.
Yeah, they're very special. I mean, we're very, very lucky. And I mean, you know, as I keep on saying, if you can't get horses fit on these, you're a mug.